Breaking! Germany is closing its hidden air base in Niger Republic with over 100 soldiers. Imagine a web of secrecy unraveling before your eyes, a tale shrouded in clandestine operations and geopolitical maneuvering. What if I told you that a powerful European nation, almighty superpower, long believed to be a steadfast ally, was forced to abandon a covert military base in the heart of Africa? Yes. Germany is closing down its hidden air base in Niger, and the implications are earth-shattering. But why? What really happened behind those closed doors? Remember Claire Daly.
It's about the EU's ambitions as a superpower. There's now a new great game in the Horn of Africa. Greater and lesser powers are pockmarking the place with military bases. France, the US, China, Germany, Japan, Italy, Saudi Arabia all have a presence in the tiny area of Djibouti alone. Mercenaries are swarming in from all quarters. The entire region is being militarized. War is in the air. And what about the people facing climate and food insecurity? None of this benefits them. We talk about instability, but we only make it worse. We flood the place with weapons, hand over the profits to European arms companies and charge the bill to our citizens. And then with the carnage, we go back in and we do it all again. It's a racket. Strategic relationship, it's one thing after another, isn't it? Really, it's the same as it ever was. And all I can say is God save Africa from European...
Daily. Do we say God have started saving some African countries from these so-called superpower? Germany's defense minister, Boris Pistorius, made a critical journey to Niamey, the capital of Niger, with high hopes of cementing military cooperation. But things took a dark turn. Despite the promise of mutual benefits, he returned empty-handed. Why did the talks fail so spectacularly? Was there more at play than mere negotiations? Consider this. Within a single year, Niger has seen the closure of not just Germany's base, but also French and American military installations. These bases, supposedly bastions of security and stability, have been dismantled one after another. Consider this. Within a single year, Niger has seen the closure of not just Germany's base, but also French and American military installations. These bases, supposedly bastions of security and stability, have been dismantled one after another. The story grows even more compelling. The rejection by Niger's independentist authorities wasn't just a diplomatic snub. It was a bold stand against what they saw as Germany's imperialist overreach. The Bundeswehr, Germany's armed forces, is now set to abandon its air transport base in Niger by August 31st. The German Ministry of Defense cited irreconcilable differences and an inability to guarantee legal protection for their troops. But is that the whole truth? Or is there a deeper, more sinister reason for their withdrawal? Consider this. In 2018, Germany set up an air transport base in Niamey, the capital of Niger, as part of its strategy to support operations against terrorism and strengthen regional security. Despite this, Niger has faced relentless security threats that have only grown over the years. Since the base's establishment, Niger has become a battleground for terrorist groups such as Boko Haram, linked to Nigeria, the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara, ISGS, and Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, AQIM. And organized crime and armed gangs have compounded Niger's woes. Smuggling networks exploit the country's porous borders, trafficking everything from weapons to drugs. These criminal activities have further destabilized the region, undermining efforts to establish peace and security. These groups have launched countless attacks, leading to significant loss of life and displacement of communities. For instance, in 2021 alone, over 100 civilians were massacred in 2 villages by suspected ISGS militants. Now the question is, with such persistent threats, one must ask the effectiveness of the foreign military presence. Was the airbase truly serving its stated purpose? Or was it a pawn in a larger geopolitical game? How did these terrorist groups manage to thrive despite the foreign military bases? This will shock you. Imagine amidst the controversies around, do you know that are still several African countries currently have foreign military bases on their soil? These bases, often hidden from public view, and one would think, does this symbolize the struggle for control over Africa's strategic resources and territories? Djibouti. This tiny nation is a hotspot for foreign bases due to its strategic location.
Just come back from a reporting trip to the little East African country of Djibouti.
Its capital city, which is also called Djibouti. You've got an American military base here, which is the only permanent military base the United States has got anywhere on the African continent. You've got a collection of French military bases up here, a French-operated air base down here that the United States also uses to fly drones out of. You've got a Japanese military base over here, which is literally the only You've got a Japanese military base over here, which is literally the only overseas base that the Japanese operate anywhere. You've got an Italian military base wedged in here by the Americans. You've got another French naval base up here. You've got German and Spanish soldiers who don't have bases of their own but get stationed up in these hotels. And then you've even got a Chinese People's Liberation Army naval base over here on the other side of town, opposite of the Americans and friends. The first overseas military base that the People's Republic of China ever built anywhere. And other countries are still actively trying to build their own bases here.
France since 1888, USA since 2002, China since 2016, Italy since 2012, and Japan since 2011 all have bases here. Yet that hasn't stopped threats like terrorism and maritime piracy from causing trouble in the Red Sea, and extremist groups like Al-Shabaab from operating in neighboring Somalia. Again, in Gabon, France has been there since 1960, providing military support and training, yet the country faces challenges with insecurities and corruption that undermines development and political instability. Also in Kenya, the U.S. has been a partner since independence, but terrorism remains a major concern in East Africa. Al-Shabaab militants continue to launch attacks in Kenya, targeting civilians and security forces. Additionally, intercommunal violence occasionally flares up over competition for scarce resources. What about Somalia? The USA has had a presence in Somalia since 2007 to combat Al-Shabaab, which they are still battling with for years. Other countries joining in, like Italy, Turkey, and the UK, also contribute troops to peacekeeping missions. Still, the fight for stability continues. Al-Shabaab controls swaths of territory, carrying out deadly bombings and assassinations. On top of that, Somalia faces food insecurity due to ongoing conflict and drought, even in Ghana.
In Ghana, we have allowed the United States.
I wonder not even a single African country have a military base in these countries. Hey! No wonder Ibrahim Traoré, president of Burkina Faso, once said, and I quote, "We have been receiving French aid for 63 years, yet our country has not developed. So cutting it off from us now will not kill us. Rather, it will motivate us to work and reform ourselves." Truth be told, since their departure, Burkina Faso has achieved significant victories against terrorist groups, reclaiming towns, villages, and vast areas of land. Traoré's tenure has brought transformative change. Over 673 to 500 displaced Burkinabe have returned home, and more than 1,200 schools have reopened. Here's even the shocking part. The economic landscape of Burkina Faso, once stagnant, has seen a remarkable resurgence. Local industries, particularly textiles and gold, have flourished, supported by a burgeoning agricultural base that Traoré himself actively promotes. This economic revival underscores a shift toward self-reliance and national pride. Do you know what's more? Traoré has implemented extensive reforms. He established the AES regional bloc with Mali and Niger, expelling French forces while accusing them of regional destabilization. He didn't stop there. The abolition of the 1961 double tax treaty with France, the adoption of local languages over French, and the establishment of a homegrown gold refinery highlight his commitment to reducing foreign dependency. The launch of a regional airline and the establishment of economic and military cooperation within the AES bloc reflect his vision for regional integration. Within the same year, Niger also saw the shutdown of French and American military bases. But the trend doesn't stop there. Across the African Sahel region, known as the AES countries, foreign military bases are being dismantled one after another. Why are these powerful nations pulling out now? What has changed in Africa that has made these military presences untenable? And more importantly, what does this mean for the continent's future security landscape? Although we can say despite these withdrawals, the African continent remains vulnerable. Terrorist groups emboldened by the vacuum left by departing foreign forces continue their relentless attacks. Organized crime networks thrive, exploiting political instability and economic despair. The natural resources, which should be a source of wealth for these nations, are instead being plundered by corrupt officials and foreign corporations. Is the departure of these foreign troops a sign of victory for African sovereignty or a prelude to greater chaos? As we ponder these questions, consider the broader implications. How does the closure of these bases affect the balance of power in the region? Will these nations be able to forge a path to true independence, free from foreign military influence? Or will new challenges emerge, testing the resilience and resolve of these embattled nations? Stay tuned as we unravel this complex and gripping narrative, diving deeper into the heart of Africa's struggle for security and autonomy. Comment your thought, like, share, and subscribe to our channel.